This is TWiT.
Verizon has agreed to settle a class action lawsuit of $100 million.
That is the craziest one ever. I read that. I was like, what are they doing? Like they are agreeing to make a payment, but they're not agreeing to stop the behavior. And if you look at what they're willing to pay people, they're actually making a profit. We're talking about 30%. They're making 60%.
This is a so-called telco
profit
recovery fee, which the class action lawsuit asserted is nothing but just more profit for Verizon. Verizon admitted no wrongdoing, but did settle for $100 million and then said, oh, and by the way, we're going to continue to charge the fee.
But this is the problem when it comes to regulation in this country. And this is something that the Reg has been pioneering. When a fine or a settlement like this is announced, you don't just say it's $100 million. You say this is 0.2% of their net profit for the last year. This is a cost of business, cost for them. This isn't a fine. This isn't a deterrent in any way.
They also agreed,
cost of doing business.
They also agreed to amend their My Verizon Wireless customer agreement to include this explanation of the charges, which range, by the way, it's a few bucks per bill, but it's on every month. And it doesn't do anything except give them money in their pocket. In addition to the cost of your plan, Verizon writes, or any features to which you may subscribe, our charges may also include an administrative and telco recovery charge. The administrative and telco recovery charge isn't a tax. It isn't required by law. It's not necessarily related to anything the government does and is kept by us in whole or in part.
And the funny thing is that...
But nobody will ever read that. And
the settlement pays you $1 a month for all the months that you had it.
Right.
But you're paying $3 a month.
Right. You don't get your money back.
They could do the settlement every 5 years. The lawyers will take... 40 million. The lawyers get 40 million. Verizon makes a profit, and you get a little bit of a rebate back. But that's exactly what this is. This is. Watch this happen in 5 years from now. It's like It's like an $8 million a year deal for this law firm to just say we're just going to keep settling every 5 years. Yeah. We'll take some money. We'll send some back to everybody, and we'll get a little bit of press, and we'll move on.
Verizon pays a third back.
There's a phrase from the law and political economy movement here, which is that a fine is a price. And this is the issue with rather than prohibiting conduct, fining people for the conduct, and it's also the problem with certain kinds of consent-based regimes or notification-based regimes, right? By as I said before, when we were talking about Apple's developer TOS section 522, and you may not violate anyone else's TOS. That the fact that the TOS says, by being dumb enough to use our product, you agree that we're allowed to come to your house and punch your grandmother and wear your underwear and make long distance calls and eat all the food in your fridge, doesn't actually should not constitute consent. And the outer periphery of what you can consent to without being able to negotiate should be much more tightly constrained, right? The idea that we should have a higher threshold for what in contract law is called unconscionability, a clause that can't be enforced because it shocks the conscience, should be much higher in these contracts of adhesion, click-through contracts where you don't get a say. Otherwise, you just have this thing where you say, okay, well, you're not allowed to do this. And they say, great, well, from now on, we'll just tell people we're doing it. And either it gets buried in the fine print or you see it in the fine print and you're like, but I still need the thing, right? Back to the point Alex was making.
Well, they're clever. They keep it just low enough so that you go, it's a couple of bucks a month. What is the...
And really the question is, once you get it, if it became a regulation rather than a settlement, which is probably why they're keeping it as a settlement, is once you do a regulation, you keep on doing it, then that becomes that starts to lots of small crimes that add up to a big crime is a RICO. And that's
I want to channel Ken White here and say it's probably not RICO.
I know, but
wow. Hey, thank you for watching this little snippet from our big show, the News Roundtable This Week in Tech. I'm Leo Laporte. Each week we cover the week's tech news, in-depth analysis, but it's also fun and engaging. You'll find it at twit.tv along with all of our shows. And if you want more, just hit the subscribe button, and we'll be sure to bring you a lot more great content. Thanks for listening.